Welcome to a show without a theme song, so I get a cow too. Woohoo! And I can see everybody backstage who did not know I was going to do that losing it, and it's great. So, anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to the Happiness Patrol, where we do things that make us happy, and that made me happy. So, I want to introduce the show. It's the first episode. Bear with us as we stumble through finding ourselves. But what I wanted to do first is kind of say what this show is going to be about. It's going to be about things that make us happy. I am constantly seeing negativity in fandom, toxic fandom, whether that's Doctor Who, whether that's Star Wars, whether that's pick a thing. There's so much negativity right now that I wanted to find something different. And there's not a lot. So here we are. And in Doctor Who, one of the episodes of the Seventh Doctor is called Happiness Patrol. And so that's kind of just stuck with me as I want something happy. There's a nice name. So we're named after one fandom, talking about another. We're going to talk about Star Wars for more or less the first season. And after that, who knows what we'll talk about? Maybe we'll keep going with Star Wars. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll go to Planet of the Apes. I don't know. But I'm not here alone. You're not going to have to put up with just me for an hour. I've got some great friends with me, and there'll be a few others that'll pop in over the months that you join us. Let's start off randomly with he's next to me in my thing, so we'll bring in Scott. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Hey, Dave, how's it going? I'm
doing
doing
good.
great. Star Wars. I like the. Before we were chatting, I mentioned Harry Potter when you were talking about the mixing of the different fandoms. I feel like that's just. I don't know if you can just be like one fandom can just sit on its own anymore. There's always cross pollination.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point. Next up, we've got Cameron, my wonderful cousin. I could not do this without you. I know you are a huge Star Wars fan, so I couldn't think of even contemplate, especially this episode, without you in it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. And we saw Phantom Menace together for the first screening.
Exactly. So that's why any story I have involves you, so I might as well bring you in. And of course, at the other end of my fandom experience, we've got the wonderful Jess, who is absolutely adorable. The three of us are in Alberta. She's out in Florida, so it's extra late for her. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us for this.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yay!
I hate Star Wars, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah, awful.
Horrible. No happiness.
I know.
Happiness here.
I thought we were talking about Doctor Who.
Now. So let's start off with where did everyone, and because again, I know what the story is for Cam and I. When did you first see Phantom Menace? Let's start with Scott.
Clockwise. Sure, why not? I saw Phantom Menace the Saturday. I didn't line up. I was living in Lethbridge at the time. I was 16, so that gives some age. But where I lived just outside of Lethbridge, Alberta, and so getting in was a little harder. But a bunch of us went for a screening, the 1 p.m. screening the next day, and they'd been showing at the local cinema. They literally just show it, clear the auditorium, rewind the film, show it again, technically digital, but whatever, you know what I mean, be kind, rewind. And it just went like that for the whole weekend. There was any time of day almost you could see. The local Cineplex had 7 screens, I think, and pretty much every half hour there was Star Wars Episode 1 starting, and so we just ended up at a 1 p.m. showing. And it was myself, my friend Cam, another friend of ours named Jeremy. We all went to high school together, and big Star Wars people, and so we really enjoyed it. I think we saw it 2 or 3 times that day. Actually, now that I think about it, so we would just again they were showing it so often that you could just walk out, wait 20 minutes, and walk back in almost. So
Nice.
it was really good. It was because they had just released the special editions a couple years before. Like I was too young to see the original Star Wars when it came out, so the special editions were me seeing Star Wars on the big screen. And there's something about watching the second Death Star when the Millennium Falcon's flying through and stuff on the big screen. It just hits very differently. So
Very true.
It was really actually did a Star Wars marathon last. The Garneau Theater up here showed all 3 episodes. Oh no, sorry, all 6 back to back in one day, and we did that. That was I don't know if I'd do it again, but we were in the theater for like 14 hours.
Yeah.
it was pretty cool actually, to be honest. And you're just, especially something like that, you're surrounded by people who are quoting the movie with you and like all this stuff. It was really neat to see.
Exactly. Jess, how about you? We're not going to go in clockwise order because we'll go with you next.
Okay. Breaking off.
Yeah.
So
Stay on target.
I know. Honestly, so I didn't get to see it like straight away, because I grew up in a household where my parents were like, we have to watch the movie first, and then because I did originally watch the first original trilogy at home and burned through those VHSs, like nobody's business. I loved them so much, but there were certain parts, like I think we were even talking about this earlier, where the arm gets cut off, where my parents would fast forward so I wasn't seeing the violence. So they had to go and watch episode 1 first, and I was chomping at the bit. I was like, I need you to come back. Like I need to go see this right now. And of course the commercials were all over. So when I finally got to see it, like I was definitely less than 10 years old when I went to go see it. So I was a kid, but I saw it in cinemas, and because they were like, I guess you can go see it. There's not too much violence. And of course we had to have the talk after with Darth Maul. So, making sure he's a bad guy, right? And I'm like, yeah, he killed the people. And I had really fun talks about Qui-Gon after, about how he was a bad guy. And I think I disagree with my parents on that one now, but because he defied the council, and you shouldn't disobey your authority because I'm a kid. And so they were like, you need to not disobey. Like Qui-Gon was bad because he was told not to do something and he did it. And yeah, so I had a very Jedi experience with it. I basically had the council go and watch it with me and go, so this is what you don't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
President didn't come with you the second time just like
yeah, make sure it like cover up.
Yeah.
Like I think because luckily with this one, because they don't show a ton of violence. Like yes, there's, because in A New Hope there's more violence. That was one scene that I couldn't see, was when they first go in through the rebels and you've got the hallway scene of people just dropping, and that doesn't really happen in Phantom Menace. So it was a
lot of droids.
Yeah,
a lot of droids do, but those aren't people. So, yeah. Clones are people.
I feel like that was intentional, because that was also the same era where we had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the cartoon where all of the foot soldiers were robots.
Right.
Keep the parents at bay.
And Ninja Turtles 2, they had weapons, but they weren't allowed to use them.
Yes.
Yeah.
When they're first fighting, they got the sausages and stuff.
Because that's when all the reports were coming out that like video games cause violence in schools. Like that was during that time where like if you play video games, you're gonna be violent in schools. So the only violence you could have against was droids.
Yeah. And we got a letter at school saying Power Rangers is not good for kids. I was just like, if you've seen this, like
either were the Crusades. So
yeah, exactly.
And we saw it together. So I was driving one day, and back then I had a car phone, and my car phone rang, and my friend said, "There's people in line for tickets at the theater for Star Wars." And I was like, "Well, it's not for a couple weeks, but let's go." So we went and we lined up, and we were like pretty deep in the line, but we got tickets. And then after everyone got their tickets, everyone left except for the guy at the front of the line. It was him and his son. He just said, "I'm staying. I'm staying here. I'm bringing a tent. I'm just staying until the movie starts." And it was 9 days away. So we were like, "Oh, let's go get tents." And actually one of my friends went and got a cell phone because he was like, "Well, we're gonna need a cell phone, and let's just line up for 9 days." And at the time I was working on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show. But I only worked on days where there was lots of extras. I was an extras wrangler. So I looked at the schedule and I was like, there's no extras in this episode. I'm off. Let's do this. So we got a tent and we slept outside the theater. There was a pizza place there that brought us pizza every night. There was all kinds of people hanging out all the time. And then as the thing approached, the crowds got bigger and bigger. The night before, a lot of people set up behind us. We played street hockey every night. Dave joined us. We ended up at the first screening in the big theater. We had 45. Our group was 45 people. We had 45 people in the good seats in the middle of the theater. Back when you had to save seats with jackets. And
I was going to ask where the theater you were, because
yeah, we were all together. It was kind of magic. I don't know if that could ever happen again. And
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, now that you have, you can buy your tickets online ahead of time. You can pick your seat and all this stuff, and everyone just goes, "Well, we'll go to the theater closest to our house," or whatever. We came from all over the city and down from Red Deer and from all over, and went to the first screening, and it was electric. There was only, I think we were exhausted because we were sleeping on the concrete for 9 days. And by the time we finally got through the movie, it was 2:30 in the morning or whatever it was. We went to Denny's, which was around the corner, to digest it all. And nobody said a word. Everyone just sat there eating pancakes, just like sun. And then, I went 11 more times in the theater before the end of May, or before it was out. And I go every time when it was released in 3D. I went, and recently it was re-released, and it's one of those movies that I think is pure storytelling. It's just pure storytelling, and George can make a Star Wars, and I really appreciate the innovation and the simplicity, but then the underlying complexity, and I think it, how many years has it been since then? 26?
20
99, right? So.
Because last year was the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, it still looks great, and I work in film, and I work with puppets, and the fact that there's miniatures and there's puppets and there's people talk about the levels of CG, and there's a CG. Almost every single shot has a visual effect in it, except for one where the gas is coming through the vent. Sure, but there's also more puppets, more miniatures, more costumes, more extras than all the other Star Wars movies combined at the time. It got bigger and bigger from there, but I loved everything about it. It's one of my happy place movies, and I'm glad I got to share it with you, Dave. What did you think of that night?
It was a little bit of good luck. I knew I was coming to see it with you. It was pretty, but my sister had to come into Calgary from Lacombe to do a bartending course. So I drove her. I still have no idea how she got home. That was I assume our parents came to pick her up or something. I don't remember. Maybe I picked her up after. I honestly have no recollection of how she got home. But I brought her into the city, and I'm like, well, I'm here. Hi, work. Sorry, I'm stuck in Calgary. No, you can't be stuck in Calgary. Well, I am. Sorry. Didn't get fired, but I'm like, no, I'm just gonna camp out the last night. I remember your mom brought us lasagna.
Oh yeah.
The last night.
Star Wars and lasagna are famous together.
Yeah, blue milk and lasagna. That was every Star Wars movie.
Exactly. And then there was a light. Aside from the street hockey in between that, there was a couple lightsaber battles going on that night.
Yeah, lots of costumes.
Yeah,
lots of energy.
I remember the local news panning over the line in Calgary because that's the closest big city to where I was, and seeing stuff like this. So there's a chance I actually saw you guys. No.
There's a it's a reasonably good chance. Yeah.
My friend Adam and I were on the news. We were on that little thing, having a little lightsaber duel, and he had the Darth Maul lightsaber and absolutely shattered my lightsaber with one swing, of course. It was on the news. I remember that. Now we got to dig up that footage and throw it in as a clip.
Yeah, if you can find me that clip, I will 100% edit that in if you can find it.
I feel like that's
you've got it in a box somewhere on a VHS cassette somewhere buried.
Perhaps.
If you can find it, I'll put it in. But that, and then the next day there was people playing Star Wars Trivial Pursuit in the line after the line. Like we were the line, and then they started a line after that. They got us all in a proper line. Take down your tents, dang it, and had us line up over there. Yeah, and then there was people had set up a Trivial Pursuit.
Where were the tents when you guys were watching this? You just put it on the side or underneath?
We put them back in our cars and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That just dawned on me when you said that. I was like, where is this stuff?
No, that's why they have the coats on the chairs. Someone was running the tents back. They got the coats on the chairs.
The theater was a round building at the time. I think it's called the Landmark now, but it was called the Coliseum at the time. It was based on, like a Roman Coliseum. And the line went all the way around the building and then back in front of us. And I do remember people trying to bribe us for our position in line because we were technically third in line because it was a man, his son, who, when I think about it now, his son would be like in his 40s now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But it was a man, his son, and then 45 of us. So anyone behind us was suddenly very deep in line.
Yeah.
Did they let you buy 45 tickets?
Yes.
I like 45 tickets.
Because I think there was 9 of us and the limit was 6. So we bought 5 each.
Yeah.
And then we were kind of set.
Which is an odd thing to think of because I just assumed you'd be like, sure, if you want to buy it at the theater, go for it.
Yeah, it was the Wild West, man. It was the 90s.
Yeah.
The 90s. You said that and all I can picture is hackers. And so it's just like the Wild West.
Again, look at how Phantom Menace has aged compared to the movies of the time. Even The Matrix, which was a big deal in '99 and used some like very flashy cinematography. It's a little cheesy, little dated now, and in a way, and then that like photo gimmick is not really a thing that's using. Imagine if Phantom Menace had a bullet time moment or something in it, but it doesn't. It's just that's one of the reasons why I think it's aged so well.
The last thing, I actually might argue, the number one thing that the Phantom Menace gave the Star Wars, like most impactful for all of Star Wars moving forward, was Duel of the Fates.
1,000,000%. It's one of my I made some notes, and one of my takeaways is Duel of Fates the best track in?
If you like Imperial March, Star Wars theme, all that is really good. Duel of Fates is just like
it's perfect.
It's so good.
It's perfect.
And I remember watching Much Music Countdown, and Duel of the Fates is moving up the countdown for like other music, like that's insane to me how big that and then you can hear it they use it so often now, because it's just that I'm getting goosebumps. It's just that good.
So
Like, it's
John went hard on
Yeah.
that one.
yeah,
Like everyone likes to talk about Phil Collins in the studio of Tarzan. No, John Williams sitting writing Duel of the Fates was like, yeah.
like you can argue, and I'm sure we will, so many aspects of that film, but like easily, in my opinion, the best thing was that like the soundtrack is good. It's John Williams. It's good. Duel of the Fates is just something else.
and we had the soundtrack and we were playing it in line
Mhm.
because it came out early, and I put a post-it note over the track titles because we didn't want to know the track titles. It was big spoilers, we assumed. And then I was playing it in my car, and I actually had the mini disc. I had a mini disc player in my car, and Jess doesn't know what a mini disc is, but
Fancy over here.
so I was playing the mini disc, and one of the features of mini disc is that the track titles come up on the my girlfriend at the time went, Qui-Gon's funeral. I was just like, oh
No.
No.
the death of Qui-Gon.
Spoilers: the Titanic sinks at the end. So like, ouch.
But,
No, but that
We made a valiant
choreography.
effort to avoid the track titles.
we did everything,
Mhm.
everything we could. But, oh well, she's no longer with me. That's why.
Yeah, there we go.
That was the
Mini disc
reason.
You said mini disc, and I've just pictured the GameCube games because that's roughly what they were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Definitely.
yeah, we had one. My dad went to CES and picked up a mini disc player, but the only one they gave with him was "I Want It That Way" by Backstreet Boys on a mini disc. And it was the only song on it. We never picked up anymore because MP3s took over. But like
Very
it was
soon after there was iPods, and that was it. But,
yeah, like it's like zip disk. It was just this thing that got skipped over.
Yeah.
Like, but no, I think like you were saying with tax, I'd like to get into how, when Dave asked me to come on and chat, the first thing I mentioned is what episode 1 gave us, especially if you're not into like the expanded canon of like the books and the comic books and stuff like that, the Christmas special, is when you look at the original 4, 5, and 6, it's like, I think we counted 8 planets on the phone the other day. We're just counting the planets. And it's about, and this is I don't like putting it this way, but it's true. It's about 8 planets in this whiny family's problems. And and I don't want it to be that way. And I hate putting it that way.
Well,
But
it was the hero's journey. It was a very Greek, it was the hero's journey.
And
It
so
was the classic.
Yeah, episode 1 comes out, and you get you have a whole senate of, there's more to the galaxy than just, Tatooine, Endor, Yavin 4, stuff like that. Like there's you open it up, and again, it starts off with this tax dispute.
Coruscant in general.
Yeah, like it's such a, for people who didn't really dive into the other stuff, it was to show that the universe is so much bigger than just, why like when you look at 4, 5, and 6, I love 4, 5, and 6. I'm sure this is coming off really harsh, but
we know what you mean. Yeah,
it's a really small story.
And that was a little by design, because when George wrote this script and he's like, I can't make this movie.
Well, exactly.
Make this movie, it was a very small group of this small band of rebels that are going after this kind of one thing. And from a production design standpoint, it's scrappy, it's put together, it's jalopies.
You can't Tolkien.
Yeah. But now we're going back to a functioning republic, well, seemingly functioning republic, where it's stylized. And I mean, Naboo as a planet is this gorgeous planet where they have architecture and art and politics, and so the idea that
multiple biomes,
an elected monarch.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, an elected monarch, which I mean, and a child.
I would question
That's
that.
14, yeah.
and
I question that
not,
logic, but
not the youngest of all the elected monarchs too.
Yeah,
They place a
logic
lot
was
of
not
value.
the high on the list.
Yeah, they place a lot of value on like intellectual pursuits and things like that. That wasn't an option for the people, especially after we've seen Andor and everything. The living under the thumb of the Empire, there was no room for education and art and growth and beautiful objects. It was
There was just the academy.
it was a military
function over form, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
form over function over form.
Yeah. So
And no, and it's interesting, especially when we're recording this. Andor season 2 hasn't come out yet, and I think that's what Andor does really well. Is it's bridging the gap between the two, where you're really seeing the breakdown of the beauty that is in, like you mentioned, architecture as well. Like there's even the Gungan city is this beautiful, like I honestly don't think there's any like bad architecture in that film. Bad, like brutalist may be the better way to put it. Where like this like function that you see in the newer episode 4, 5, and 6.
Sterile.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great
It's
word.
not
Like,
that sterile,
yeah,
like Imperial. I
Yeah.
always think of sterility for
Yeah.
that.
the shades of gray.
By design, they wanted it to look not as lived in necessarily, but beautiful and designed and like you say, with that, when you show that Senate and there's all these worlds and all these different creatures and species and everything, it just expands that universe. And he's gone back in time a little bit, and now we can play in that universe, and we get to watch all this crumble down to where we know we're going eventually.
Well, like the many Bothans or I'm wanted on 7 worlds from episode 4 hints that there's more to this. But when you first see the Galactic Council and the number of representatives, like you're like, your mind just opens up to what do these worlds look like? Who are these people? Like what are their societies? What do they eat? How do they eat? Like it's like, you know, like I picture Halle Berry in Star Trek episode 6 being like, everyone's stuff isn't in the same place. When I was thinking the how do people eat thing, like who knows? Like,
And that's just the Republic. That's not even the unknown regions. That's not even like.
I believe that is the promise of Star Wars. Is there's the things we know, but it's what we don't know that is hinted at is what Star Wars to me is.
Think about how many action figures they can sell. If we
But honestly, I think I had more action figures
got them
before
all.
I saw the movie.
Yeah. Oh, we had all the figures. We're like, we better get Rick Oley. He might be a huge deal.
We don't know what character this is going to be. I bet I'm going to love him.
Yeah.
Is on screen for 2 seconds.
I'm sure the guy wearing the red shirt makes it to the end. We should get him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jess, what do you think was kind of one of the most important things for you coming out of it?
I don't know. It's just like all of it. The scale. I think it was the scale of the war, if that makes sense. Of like, for me, one of the most impactful things was like seeing the beginning of like the invasion with all of the battle droids and everything, and just seeing that drive for peace. And it's like sometimes you don't get the choice for peace, you know, and like it's different from the original trilogy, because the original trilogy, you're in oppression already. Like you don't have a choice. Like it's you fight this or everyone is just going to perish. And this one, it feels different because it's like, hold on, can't we be civil about this? Throws a droid army on it. It's like, oh, like, you know, and for me, it's kind of like that awakening of like, some people will just, but seeing the puppetry, I will never forget at the Qui-Gon funeral. And for me, this is like pre-internet. Like I didn't go and look at things, but as soon, because once again, I was a huge fan of the original, when they pan over and there's that brief moment where you just see Ian's face,
Mm-hmm.
and my little like child self was like, I know that nose. I know that nose. I was like, that is such a beautiful moment and it's such a slow moment. But if you catch it, and that's without like reading the lore or going on the internet, this is pre like everyone's getting on Reddit giving their theories type thing. It was like, oh, that's gonna be him. He's doing this, and just getting kind of those Easter eggs of seeing that like from the moment and seeing that the strings being pulled from the inside is both frustrating and also like, oh, this is brilliant and horrible, but brilliant.
Well, it kind of rewards you for paying attention. Like that was, I think a lot of fandom, the problem with it is they're so overt with this. See this person, that's the daughter of this person, and this is going to matter. Back then, like you're saying, you said pre-Reddit. I was like, well, Google's only 2 years old when this movie comes out, and it's not like what we have. We're
there
asking,
was an end when you typed in Google Images. You could scroll to the end after 3 pages. Like there was not pages upon pages of Google.
There was, like you back to Cameron and Dave's experience with the line. That was how you talked about Star Wars. Like there was probably a little more than BBS's, but like online, what the internet is now wouldn't be happen for another 5 years. I'm thinking Facebook, and like that opening up. So you kind of work, in your own bubble on this thing.
I had no clue people liked Boba Fett. I moved to Florida, so little girl Jessica dressed as Leia and went to like a trunk or treat one year, and I had one person go, "Oh, I like more Star Trek, but that's Star Wars, isn't it?" And everyone else, the entirety of people had no clue who I was, and I was like, "How do you not know this?" And like it was pretty accurate. Like it wasn't questionable who I was. Like it was very, very accurate for a child, but no one knew Leia. No one knew Star Wars at any of my schools growing up. So like Phantom Menace was like the awakening where I was like, the thing that I've loved for years, now everyone's liking it, and I did it first. And I'm glad all of you know.
We forget that there was a Star Wars hole that was not filled for a long, long time.
That if your parents were not hardcore fans, like no one knew about it.
We had 3 movies that we obsessed over for decades. They re-released them and changed tiny little things, and we went crazy over these tiny little changes, good and bad. And then
Student First was a thing.
Yeah, like it exactly. Like there's all these different camps of everything. But then and I've had a theory from the beginning that I think still rears its head to this day, where because people who watch Star Wars, people that are Star Wars fans, they maybe don't even remember the first time they saw it. Like when we're in the age group we're in, we weren't necessarily in the theater for the first one. It was on TV, it was on VHS, it was running in the background. The images, the iconography is in society all over the place. You see Chewbacca cookie jars, and it's just kind of a part of you. And somebody said it that night when we left the theater. My friend Ian said, "That's the first time I've ever seen Star Wars that I've never seen before." And because Star Wars and some of these things, they play in your head like a symphony. You know every sound effect. You know the little mouse droid is gonna squeal. You know the music. It just plays like a symphony, and you can close your eyes and still enjoy the movie the way you always have. But when you see Star Wars that you've never seen before, it can be very jarring. And it happened on all 3 of the prequels. It happened again on the sequels. It happens now with Acolyte, and whenever they're showing people Star Wars that's new, there's an uneasiness, and some people don't like it, and that's where a lot of, I think, negative reaction comes from, where they're like, I've seen the original trilogy 1,000,000 times, and the prequels, they're not Star Wars. That's not Star Wars, but it is for people where the prequels play like a symphony in there.
I was talking about how I'm coming on here, and something similar to what you just described. It was like, could you imagine in 1980 leaving the theater being like, what's going to happen to Han Solo, and having to wait 3 years to find the answer to that?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Like it's only been what 2 years for season 2 of Andor, and I'm just like I couldn't imagine and there's none of this like you can't really turn to anyone. You and your friend group, especially in the 80s, is all you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the interesting thing. Also wanted to point out is you're talking about how Star Wars to those if you catch on like TBS or something, and you just like, it doesn't matter where you are, your brain knows everything that came up to that moment and everything that follows it. If you watch your like 30 seconds, you're like, cool, I've seen it.
Absolutely.
And you know which clips that they've cut short so they could have that commercial break.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
exactly.
No,
You cut a moment.
But the other side of it is to compare fandom back to Jess's comment, which is in the 90s, especially with the bringing back of Next Generation and DS9 and Voyager doing their thing, and then you have the movies, whatever. You don't realize how big Star Wars actually was until you saw your lines. When you look on television, you just see everyone is camping for 9 days, and that's not good or bad. That's not a unique story. I'm not trying to, but like every city has that guy. Like that's how big this was. And you didn't realize like when George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney for $4.4 billion, you don't like, there's no way that's what it was in the 90s. It's just not that, right?
No, there was a few books and there was a few things going on, and there was people
a couple video games.
Yeah, I mean, I used to put the VHS on every night and just to have it run while I did homework or whatever. But the idea that we would get more movies was always talked about, but never really believed, and it's really, I think it's remarkable that he went back and did them, and and a little bit, there was a little bit of like a moment where people were like, make these movies, make 1, 2, 3. You already have 4, 5, 6, make 1, 2, 3. And he kept saying, well, it's kind of a boring part of the, and it's not as exciting as this. That's why I made this. It's kind of about politics and stuff. And everyone was like, no, we want it. And then he was like, okay, well, here it is. And a portion of the population was like, well, we don't like it. And it's like, well,
that's not my Star Wars.
You asked for it.
It looks different. It's supposed to look different. This couldn't be a more different time in a galaxy that changes a lot in the 18 years between 3 and 4.
Well, it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
right? We haven't talked about it, but I'd like to, with Dave's permission, ask a question, because with episode 1 we got Jar Jar Binks, metachlorians, and
M count,
and and Anakin, kid Anakin. Let's like, I'm on the fence on that one.
Yeah,
the fandom tends to have thoughts on these things.
So do I.
Yeah.
Shockingly.
Can I talk about the M count?
Yes.
I have lots to say too. Go.
So I was not a fan, but then I read the now non-canon Plagueis book. And it was one of the best ways of taking how metachlorians work and pulling them into the Plagueis science. It was very science driven, and it actually explained how you would endure life past death using them and manipulating them. And it was the first time that I had ever like really taken the metachlorians and been like, oh, hold on, I'm not against this. Like, this actually is kind of brilliant. And there have definitely been, and it's hard for me to like make that not canon in my brain now, with that being said, and I don't hate what they've done with like Bad Batch and stuff like that, where they're like, oh, it's nearly impossible to like create a metachlorian count in a clone, and like saying how that's a difficult process and stuff like that. So I like when they've actually turned it into a hiccup in science, as opposed to just this like, oh, and now we have a term that's just thrown in there that explains magical space voodoo.
Well,
Um,
yeah,
so like there've been
yes,
some really positive things, and if you guys haven't read the Plagueis book,
I haven't.
I am not a Darksider person. But this was such a good inside look to how Plagueis kind of worked, and like what happened to his master, and how he found Palpatine, and like where his theories even came from. Of because I think what he would notice is as soon as someone would die, the metachlorians would literally abandon a dead body, because they were like, you're not, because they were living creatures, and it was like, if you're not alive, I can't be here. So
Yeah.
it was like manipulating them and coercing them to stay within the body, which would then enhance the, like, it was a really like cool concept and interesting concept that won me over towards M count. So I'm like, in my head that's canon, so I'm okay with it. But
Okay.
without that explanation, I'm kind of like, it's cheapened.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
I got one, and then I'm going to Cameron's yours.
I got
Star Wars does adding science to fantasy. Like, part of me is like, do we really need to explain this? Like, he's stacking rocks with a 3-foot Muppet on his back while lifting an
It
X-wing.
was great.
Like, like Kermit the Frog on a bad drug day is telling him do or do not, and and he's like, I'm in. You sold me. You don't need to sell me anymore. Like, you don't need to dig into this. Right. And that, I think that was maybe the backlash was like.
So the way it worked in the 90s was that you had Star Wars and Star Trek, and never the twain shall meet. And I've never understood that. I enjoy both. I'm not as big a Star Trek fan, but I do enjoy both. The idea that this looked like they were adding explanation to Star Wars was blasphemous for a lot of people. They say, Star Trek, they worry about how much fuel they have. Star Wars, they don't care. They just, they don't care about the nitty gritty details of the universe.
What type of DM do you have for your D&D campaign?
Exactly.
Perhaps, yeah. So it was really, it struck a weird note with a lot of people. Now, what I will say, and even at the time, I said, Qui-Gon does not say, and at the time we had a card game too, like a Star Wars card game, and everybody had like a force ability number, and even that upset people because that's not really what we want in Star Wars. But what's that?
The Decipher Star Wars?
Yeah, right.
A whole bunch of it behind me.
Perfect. So, but and I've said this in like many forums, but not like online forums, but just like forums. Qui-Gon tests Anakin's blood 100% because he has a theory that he was conceived by the midichlorians. Midichlorian count is not necessarily directly connected to your ability to use the Force. And it's the line where Obi-Wan says, not even Master Yoda has a midichlorian count that high, that made people think that there was some kind of ranking of like, if you have 6 or 10,000 or 20,000, you're destined to be a better Jedi. And I think you could have a count of 1. There's at least 1 in every cell, and you can be Mace Windu. And it's not like every time there was a vergence in the Force, or every time there was a young person that they were like, we think this person might have some kind of Force ability, they would test their blood. Qui-Gon tests his blood 100% because he thinks this young boy is conceived by the midichlorians, fulfilling a prophecy that he's obviously been meditating on. He obviously felt drawn to Tatooine. He obviously felt drawn to this boy all the pieces were coming together for him. And he's like, Obi-Wan, I need a midichlorian count. And it's off the charts. It's not even, he says, over 20,000. It can't even be measured. And for him, that's it. We got to get this kid in front of the council. This is the one that's going to bring balance to the dark side. Now, what does that mean? Here's the scary part. If you imagine the Force is something controlled by nature, it's a natural, like the water cycle, and the midichlorians are not the Force in your cells. They are just another creature like the Jawas or the Ewoks or the Sand People or the Wookiees. They are a creature that lives in the Star Wars galaxy. They happen to live in the cells of living beings. And they are in constant communication with what they call the will of the life force or whatever it is. So the Force is doing this, and then you've got all these Jedi harnessing the Force and using the Force, and it's out of whack, and the dark side or the other side's not getting stronger. What they need to do is get people to stop using it and bring it back to a natural cycle. And so the idea that Anakin is the guy who can kill all the Jedi, he's the only one powerful enough to stop the Emperor and get rid of him. And you get, in a perfect world, Anakin kills all the Jedi, he kills the 2 Sith, and the midichlorians get back that balance in the Force.
So while you're
That's
discussing,
really funny. Have you delved into High Republic yet?
No.
So there's a cult called the Path of the Open Hand, and they think that by the Jedi using the Force, they are taking the Force away from something else that naturally should be.
That's exactly thought.
That's your thought process. I have understood the Force completely different than that, and so for me, you have balance is not about, so the universe itself is dark. People will always make poor decisions. The Jedi are meant to balance that by balancing the darkness. As soon as you add Sith to that mix, it is now overly dark and not balanced by. So the whole point is you should be following the light being on balance with the inherent darkness of just human nature or sentient nature.
You need Jedi to keep in that theory.
In my theory, you need, or not even Jedi. It doesn't need to be Jedi, but it needs to be people who are following the light to balance just the inherent darkness. But as soon as you get people that start using the Force for the dark side, you have now thrown it out of whack because you have the inherent darkness and now you've added powerful darkness, and that's what's out of balance. So once you bring light up to the same level, that's where that balance comes from. But I think it's very funny because they're considered a cult. Your belief system is actually considered a cult in the high. I would read it because I think you would find it great.
Yeah,
but
no,
yeah,
not the
but
first.
they're called the Path of the Open Hand.
Okay.
But just like Wikipedia that, because their whole saying is the Force should be free, and the Jedi are trying to control it.
That's a little bit what Luke says in Last Jedi, and that was the first time because I had been saying this midichlorian stuff for a long time, and when Luke in Last Jedi is like, it's time for the Jedi to go away, like the screw up, Anakin's screw up is that he had children, and so now you've got Luke and you've got Leia alive, which is I think part of why the Emperor didn't die because there was still this available energy.
So you are okay with Disney's portrayal?
Oh no, I don't think he's saying he's okay with it. I think it just is the fact that he's.
That's how you're justifying Disney's Luke.
Well, I was very excited to see that Disney started talking about things like that because
take on that actually.
Yeah,
I love hearing the different views of the Force. So it's great.
So I've always pictured midichlorians as like your gut bacteria, like we have a two-way. We do now, right?
We have more bacteria than human cells.
Yep. And when you're talking about how the midichlorians leave, I'm like, yeah, your gut bacteria dies.
Right?
But balance to the Force. So to Cam's point of the buildup of this Messiah, I think blinds him. They're like, oh, this is it. You see it in the real world with the prophecy and people trying, like your astrology, trying to make your day fit into your
Mhm.
But I argue, and I'm not the first to say this, that Anakin did bring balance to the Force, because when we start into Episode 4, there's Obi-Wan and Luke, and there's Vader and Palpatine. That seems pretty balanced to me. Like
Yoda was.
I think his whole thing was like, like he was all like, yeah, it's gonna bring down all the Sith, and because they didn't know there's two of them, the rule of two, right? So the balance actually was like, no, we gotta like really call the Jedi here. Like there's a lot of
right, and that's where Mace and Yoda are talking in one of the other episodes, and they say, there's a prophecy we might have misunderstood.
Yeah.
Because we thought, oh, bringing balance, that's good. It means we win. Not necessarily true.
See, this is where I would argue that the Jedi during that time, especially during the Clone Wars, they're functioning in the dark side. They are not of the light. And we see the corruption of that. And they are you are correct, the Jedi of the time were throwing it out of balance because every action they make, especially during the Clone Wars, is based in fear.
Ahsoka.
That's what
functioning
really
in the dark side.
When Obi-Wan kills Maul, that was his reckless behavior. That's that moment when he's hanging on that thing and the music swells and he goes, you know what? I can kill this guy because Qui-Gon is trying not to kill him and doesn't work, but he's lying there and he's thinking, no, I'm going to kill this guy. And he goes dark for a moment. He gets the thing, he cuts it. And that look of surprise on Maul's face is I've never had the dark side used against me before. And, when Yoda in Empire is like, he's reckless and he goes, well, so was I, if you remember, that's the idea of like.
See, I never took that as the dark side. There's another saying.
A irresponsible move on Obi-Wan's part to kill Maul.
It could be, but it also couldn't be, because when you have given your opponent, and this is a Jedi saying on every level, which is when you have given your opponent every single opportunity to make a different decision, and it comes down to if they survive, how many more lives are going, versus if I survive, how many lives can I save? It's not I'm delving into the dark side by taking your life. It's you have given me no other choice. And I have to take your life because you can walk away. He could, because Maul had won at that point, and he could have walked away.
I'm going to disagree, actually.
Yeah.
The track playing at the time is Duel of the Fate.
Yeah.
I believe Obi-Wan is fated to be at that place at that time to stop Maul. That we keep seeing metachlorians as this like standoff or just whatever. What if they're messing with us? They're the putting everything, all the dominoes into place where this had to be this way. So Darth Maul is shocked because at some point something told him that he was going to come out on top on this. And there's a change from the Force or the metachlorians or Jim Henson and his puppets. Who knows? And something changes.
I just didn't think he thought anyone with a single saber could beat him because he's a cocky.
Well, there is it's hubris, and you see it all in oppressive. What's his brother's name?
Savage Opress.
Yeah, like you really see when you see there's.
I'm sure that is such a clever name.
Very
Savage.
Actually, I once argued with a man who said Vader was his name. Darth just meant that he was a Sith. And so like
Mr.
And that like something dark side. And like that's I had a lot of arguments with that man, but and it's I love the fact that we're all seeing this film through a lens of love, but getting so many different
different thoughts.
There.
It's interesting to hear the different interpretations of the will of the Force, because I've always understood it almost like how Charles explains time travel in Days of Future Past, but it's like everything that is meant to happen will happen. It's just how you get there isn't always the same. So it's like Anakin was always meant to take out Sidious, and he had the chance to do it with Windu there. But because of Sidious interfering, it lengthened the time and caused a lot more. So he always fulfills the prophecy of taking out Sidious. He took the long way because of poor choices and because of manipulation, so it's one of those things where that's how I've always understood the will of the Force and how the prophecies worked. Is the prophecies will come true, they just might take a little detour depending on who's
There's an
working.
interpretation, because I'm sure the midichlorians don't speak English. It's, a very deep sense of meditation, and what Qui-Gon says is you have to learn to quiet your mind, and you'll understand, you'll hear the will of the Force and all this stuff. I imagine those interpretations are very cryptic and
well, and a beautiful thing
Great
High
to
Republic wise that they've kind of come out, and I'm sorry I keep quoting High Republic, but it's the best way that they've actually brought the actual Jedi acting as Jedi. But there's a council meeting and they're all going, well, I don't know if we should interfere because the will of the Force this and the will of the Force this. And finally one of the masters, Dora Malia, speaks up and she goes, it is not our job to determine what the will of the Force is. Our job is to put more light into the galaxy. If the choices that we make are adding light, then that is the will of the Force. And we shouldn't be questioning this bigger picture of like, oh, well, maybe I should change the will of the Force by not getting involved. And it's like, no, are my actions adding light? Then that's the will of the Force. That is the only choice that we have as Jedi. And I thought High Republic is great. Anyone, please. It is the first time that Disney has felt like legends to Luke
Jedi
legends to me.
there, but like it's like I'm aware of it. I haven't dug into it, but I am aware. That's funny because like for me, I don't think Star Wars has ever been better than like Rogue One and Andor. Like it's and that's such a different vibe.
It's so good. So and Andor. Yeah, I mean, we don't even deserve Andor. Like,
no, it's like
as a fan, you don't deserve it. It's so.
And this is gonna again. To me, Star Wars needs two things, and this is I'm gonna talk about because this will tap it. You need Wars and the Stars. You have those two things, we're good. Like the reason why I think Rogue One might be the best Star Wars film, yes, spoilers, is no lightsaber battle. And I actually, especially when you go back, lightsaber battles are boring to me. But Episode 1, interesting. Like it's
so great.
It's so good. But before then, and I know it's technical limitations, you're just kind of like hitting your sticks together, right? Like it's like
Alec Guinness.
You have a 50-pound light that really can't take too much hits. Like so you can't, but then you get the more CG and light, like with the means you can do the flips and what we've come to know that the Jedi are like, especially from the video games. But no, Andor is so good. It's just like I can't wait. They're dropping a Star Wars film a week for the next 4 weeks. I'm just
know, and all those security meetings with Denise Goff's characters just put that in my veins.
I love that.
Mon Mothma.
She's honestly, I think she's the best part.
She's the best part
for me of it. I'm like, can I just get a Mon Mothma spinoff? Like, I will watch that.
Here's something I'm going to say about the way Disney, again, if anyone wants to put me in charge of Star Wars, feel free. But the way Disney has handled Star Wars has been some of the best thing that ever happened to Star Wars. But there's one thing that they keep titling everything after a character. And that's what you do when you're making a superhero movie. You make the Iron Man, Spider-Man, Hulk. You
also Disney.
America. But Star Wars is always named, or it has been historically named after kind of what's going on under the surface. A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, the Phantom Menace. Like, what is the thing that's boiling under what's the current under the river kind of thing. And they make a show called Mandalorian, and it's about much more than that. It's the Grogu movie after the first, and then they make the Book of Boba Fett, and 3 episodes are about Mandalorian, and then they make Andor, and it's about Mon Mothma and all these other things. I think they would have been better off titling each era. If they titled the era like the fall of or the rise of the rebellion, and the Galaxy in Chaos, or if they just titled the area, and then it was like, oh, there's 3 new episodes of Galaxy in Chaos coming out,
Discovery of the Mandalore,
right? And then now there's like, oh, Mandalorian's in this one. Oh, this one's about Ahsoka. Oh, this one's and the idea that they keep trying to, and they're doing it with Mandalorian and Grogu is the title of their upcoming next film. It's not my favorite way of handling Star Wars.
Why I brought up Andor to this actually is Andor, the very first episode of Andor, season 1, is very similar to Phantom Menace of all things, which is they've identified the worst possible thing the Empire could do, and that's bureaucracy. And like Andor opens up to them talking about who's going to subjugate what system in that little, like, it's government. And Phantom Menace opens up government, like trade, like it's such a, somehow we have a whole galaxy of throwing rocks and lightsaber, whatever, and they've identified the most evil thing as paperwork. Like it's
true.
Like, it's true. Like, and it's
that's how democracies fall. That's what it's or the Vietnam conflict and everything.
Not with rousing applause, but with paperwork.
With paperwork, yeah.
Cheap war forms and
an email. Could have been an email. Could have.
Did you see the? Did you get the memo on the TPS reports? Like, it's
exactly what it is. Yeah,
it's exactly what it is.
And with that having been said, and we've brought it back around to episode 1, we're gonna call this episode done. Oh, God, Scott's more.
We didn't even talk about Jar Jar.
I know. We just did a whole episode about Star Wars, about episode 1 without a Jar Jar Binks drinking game.
Yeah.
Now, that is.
There's tiny little things in it, obviously, that, maybe you'd change this, maybe you wouldn't put in a fart joke, maybe you wouldn't put in this and that. But I mean, there's a burp joke in Jedi. There's bad acting in A New Hope. There's a lot of things that are very Star Wars. We don't love Star Wars because it's perfect. We love Star Wars because it's a real universe where sometimes stormtroopers whack their head on the door on the way in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
I love it. So, Scott, tell us, where can we find you when we're not on Happiness Patrol?
So I started a thing with a friend of mine called Breakfast Scotch National. It's our take on the Onion. Just kind of us currently venting our frustration with the Empire from below the border. I think Jess, you lived in that. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying.
No, you're good.
It is a turbulent time with tax and tariffs.
The trade war from Naboo.
Yeah.
I
like how you're in Florida, so the Naboo reference, or it'd be more like Dagobah. But
yeah.
But lots of Muppets down there, if you know what I mean. But it's and so
from Dagobah, yeah.
But so that's we got up to no good, and we write our thoughts out. I'm sure it's not for everyone, but we're having fun. So.
And that's the important thing, is to have fun and be happy. Cam, where can we find you?
On Letterboxd, I'm Cameron Chapman. On Instagram, I'm Cameron Chapman. On almost everything, I'm not on Facebook or anything like that. I'm just Cameron Chapman. And I'll plug some stuff that is near and dear to me. I work at Jim Henson's Creature Shop, and there's 2 seasons of Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock on Apple Plus. Watch that again and again and again. There's a beautiful holiday special, and 13 episodes a season, and we hope that we get to do more. And go watch that. A film I did a couple years ago called The Order with Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult is on Amazon Prime in Canada. I'm not sure where it is in Florida, but go watch that. It's great. It's one of the best movies of last year, in my opinion. And yeah, keep watching Star Wars.
Yay. And Jess, where can we find you?
I am predominantly, I guess, on Song Swan Cosplay on Instagram as well as Facebook, but I'm mainly on Instagram. And it's just cosplays. I'm eventually going to have like a Jedi Jess Instagram thing going on, but yeah.
We'll make
And
sure
Saber
you show
Guild.
that
If you
off.
happen to be in Florida, I teach lightsaber stuff.
Cool.
So
That's cool.
for charity.
Nice.
So.
Yes.
Very cool.
Good
Yeah,
fun.
no, she does amazing work. I got to take all of one convention level workshopy thing.
Yeah, we'll get you through Shicho one of these days. We'll get
Someday.
you through.
I'll come out for the Jedi meditation some morning. I'll wake
Yeah.
up enough.
Bright and early every single convention because they give me the first time slot.
Just don't lose any limbs, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. As for me, you can find me here in the Happiness Patrol on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, if you're a Doctor Who fan. And then there's my channel, youtube.com/theRatHole, DOTCA. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm the one who typed that in even, but it's the Rat Hole DOTCA.
I was like, aren't you in charge of this?
I really am. I'm in charge of this.
This whole thing was your operation.
It's true. But that also means I can fix it kind of on the fly. I just have to, talk a little bit and talk and type at the same time.
You're really great at
bring the kazoo out.
stalling.
There we go.
So yes, the Rat Hole DOTCA, because YouTube doesn't like having URLs in their URLs, where I do gaming stuff. But if you're watching this, hopefully you will join us again next month for our episode 2 when we talk about shock and awe episode 2.
And everything around it, I would guess.
I'm gonna get how long are we gonna keep the episode 1, episode 2 in sync? Is there any reason we wouldn't? I can think of several.
Yeah.
But
some
thank
ways
you.
we machete order this differently, but
it's true.
Yeah.
So thank you guys very much for joining us today. I don't have any closing theme music. I don't have any closing end screens or anything fancy, so you get some more kazoo. Yay! I won't even do more because even though it's a kazoo, I probably won't get.
Please don't sue me, Disney.
Yeah, exactly.